In 1815, one family discovered a formula that has trapped nearly every person on Earth for over 200 years. The Rothschild banking dynasty didn't just accumulate wealth, they engineered a system where your labor, your savings, and your future are automatically funneled upward. And right now, you're inside that system, playing by rules designed to keep you there. Let me show you the exact moment it happened. June 18th, 1815. The Battle of Waterloo. While Napoleon and Wellington fought for control of Europe, Nathan Rothschild sat in London with information no one else possessed. His private network of couriers, faster than any government messenger, told him Wellington had won before official word reached England. The London bond market panicked, assuming British defeat was imminent. Rothschild didn't just buy bonds in the chaos. He bought the entire market. When the official news arrived 24 hours later, he'd turned £20,000 into over £1 million in a single day. But here's what people don't understand. That trade wasn't the end goal. It was a proof of concept. Rothschild had discovered something far more valuable than a fortune made on bonds. He'd discovered that controlling the flow of money through governments, through banks, through entire economies, was more powerful than owning any single asset. Within 5 years, the Rothschild family had established banking houses in 5 European capitals. Within 20 years, they were financing governments across the continent. They'd built something that had never existed before. Not just a bank, a system. There are 5 mechanisms in this system. You're caught in at least 4 of them right now. But there's a 6th mechanism they never talk about, and that's your way out. This is the story of how modern banking was designed, how it traps you, and the one escape route that still exists in 2025. Let me show you the exact moment the system was born. Between 1815 and 1820, Nathan Rothschild and his 4 brothers constructed something unprecedented in financial history. Not just a family business, but a network that spanned 5 power centers simultaneously. London, Paris, Vienna, Naples, Frankfurt. 5 brothers, 5 capitals, 5 banking houses, all coordinating moves that governments couldn't see coming. While kings and ministers debated policy in marble halls, the Rothschilds were sending encrypted messages through private courier networks, moving capital across borders before anyone realized the money had left. The post-Waterloo period was perfect timing. Every government in Europe was buried in war debt. France owed money it couldn't pay. Austria needed reconstruction funding. Britain faced massive bond obligations. Spain's treasury was empty. And here's what the Rothschilds understood that no one else did. Governments always need more money, and whoever controls their debt controls their decisions. By 1825, the Rothschild family had financed over £60 million in government loans across Europe. £60 million? In today's money, that's over $7 billion in active leverage over sovereign nations. But the real innovation wasn't the scale, it was the structure. They'd discovered 3 mechanisms that would become the foundation of modern banking. First, lending to governments creates perpetual interest because the debt is never meant to be fully repaid. Governments just refinance, rolling the obligation forward forever. Second, banks lending to banks creates a money multiplier effect. Every pound deposited could be lent out multiple times across the network, essentially creating money from nothing. Third, information asymmetry becomes an asset class. The Rothschilds' carrier pigeons moved faster than government messengers. They knew bond prices, commodity movements, and political developments before markets did. They weren't just trading on information, they were trading on time itself. By 1850, Rothschild capital was financing railways across Europe, mining operations in Spain, and government bonds in Brazil. Other banking families studied the model and copied it. J.P. Morgan in America, the Warburgs in Germany, the Barings in London. The system was spreading. This wasn't capitalism. This was the creation of a permanent creditor class, and everyone else became the debtor class by design. That was the prototype. Here's how it became the system that traps you today. The original design evolved. It doesn't require one family anymore. It's embedded in the structure itself. 5 mechanisms working simultaneously, each one designed to funnel wealth upward while making you believe you're building security. Let me show you each one. Mechanism number 1. Debt-based currency creation. Every dollar in your wallet, every number in your bank account was created the moment someone went into debt. Banks don't lend money that exists. They create it when they issue loans. You borrow $100,000 for a house, the bank types numbers into a computer, and that money springs into existence. But here's the trap. The bank created the principal, but not the interest. You owe $180,000 over 30 years, but only $100,000 exists. The extra $80,000 has to come from someone else going into debt. It's musical chairs with money. Mathematically, someone must lose. Right now, the US M2 money supply sits at $21 trillion. Total debt, government, corporate, and household combined, $98 trillion. The interest alone exceeds all the money that exists. Mechanism number 2. Fractional reserve banking. Your bank holds 10% of deposits and lends out 90%. You deposit $1,000. The bank keeps $100 and lends $900 to someone else. That person spends it, it gets deposited elsewhere, and that bank lends out 90% again. Your original $1,000 becomes $10,000 in the system through this multiplier effect. Banks aren't storing your money. They're creating new money from your deposit. $1 trillion in actual reserves supports over $10 trillion in outstanding loans. They're generating wealth from nothing, and you're paying interest on it. Mechanism number 3. Central bank interest rate control. The Federal Reserve, established in 1913 with documented connections to J.P. Morgan and Rothschild banking interests, controls the cost of borrowing for the entire economy. When they raise rates, assets crash, and creditors buy everything cheap. When they lower rates, inflation erodes your savings while debtors stay trapped making payments on money that's worth less. Look at 2008. Rates dropped, banks got bailouts, assets sold at discounts, wealth transferred upward. Look at 2020. Same pattern. Rates near zero, money printed, assets inflated, working class priced out. Mechanism number 4. Asset inflation. Housing, stocks, education, the things you need to build stability, rise faster than wages by design. In 1970, the median home cost 2.5 times the median income. In 2025, it's 7.5 times. You can't save fast enough. The gap widens every year. You must borrow to access what previous generations bought with saved earnings. Mechanism number 5, tax structure asymmetry. Your labor gets taxed immediately up to 37% on income. Capital gains, how the wealthy earn, taxed at 0 to 20%. Corporations defer taxes indefinitely by taking on debt. Warren Buffett himself said he pays a lower tax rate than his secretary. That's not a loophole, that's the design. The working class pays as they earn. The wealthy borrow against assets tax-free and never sell. 5 mechanisms, all working simultaneously, each one funneling wealth upward. And here's what should terrify you. You can't escape by just working harder. The system was built to prevent that. Maybe you're thinking, I'll just save more, invest smarter, work harder. Here's why that keeps you inside the system. Failed escape number 1. Saving in cash. The Federal Reserve targets 2% inflation annually by design. That's the official number. Real inflation in housing, healthcare, and education runs 5 to 7% every year. $100,000 sitting in savings in the year 2000 has the purchasing power of $65,000 in 2025. Your savings are designed to lose value. The mechanism requires it. You're not failing to save enough. Saving itself is the trap. While you accumulate dollars, the system prints more, diluting what you've stored. You're running on a treadmill that speeds up the longer you stay on it. Failed escape number 2. Stock market investing. This route requires capital to start, which means years of saving depreciating currency or taking on debt. When markets crash, losses get socialized through bailouts. When markets gain, your profits get taxed. The average investor underperforms the market by 4% annually, according to Dalbar studies. Not because they're stupid, but because they're playing a game designed for people who already have capital. By the time you've accumulated enough to invest meaningfully, you're already deep inside the system. You need $500,000 invested to generate $40,000 in annual income at 8% returns. How many years of saving inflating currency does that take? Failed escape. Number 3. Real estate. The average mortgage is $350,000. You're taking on massive debt to acquire an asset you won't own for 30 years. Property taxes ensure you never truly own it, even after the mortgage is paid. You're renting from the government forever. When the property appreciates, you either sell and buy back into an equally inflated market, or you borrow against the equity, taking on more debt. You're not building wealth. You're leveraging yourself deeper into the mechanism that created the trap. Failed escape number 4. Career advancement. Move from 75,000 to 150,000 in annual income and watch what happens. Your tax rate jumps from 22% to 32%. You move to a better neighborhood where housing costs double. Your kids go to better schools with higher fees. You buy a newer car because your peers drive them. Lifestyle inflation matches income inflation. You're running faster on the same treadmill, and the system takes a larger cut with every step up. More income doesn't mean freedom. It means more sophisticated entanglement. 4 escape routes. All of them keep you in the system. Because the system was designed to make traditional wealth building impossible for most people. But there is a 6th mechanism, and it's the one way out. The Rothschilds understood something most people never learn. The system has one blind spot, one asset class it cannot control, cannot inflate away, cannot tax into oblivion. Let me show you exactly how it works and why this window won't stay open forever. The 6th mechanism. Asymmetric assets. These are holdings that exist outside the traditional debt-based system. They share 3 characteristics. First, they're not created through debt. Second, central banks cannot print more of them at will. Third, they're extremely difficult to tax or seize without your cooperation. Historically, this meant physical gold, which is exactly where the Rothschilds stored their actual wealth, while lending paper currency to everyone else. It meant rare art, land owned outright, assets that couldn't be inflated away by government printing presses. In 2025, this category has evolved to include Bitcoin and decentralized digital assets with provably finite supply. These tools work because they exit the mechanism entirely rather than trying to win within it. Now here's the 3-part escape strategy. Part number 1. Eliminate debt systematically. Not all debt carries equal weight. Consumer debt at 18% APR is financial poison. $30,000 in credit card balances cost you $5,400 annually just in interest payments. That's $450 every single month, feeding the system before you've bought a single necessity. Attack the highest interest obligations first using the avalanche method. Your target is zero consumer debt within 24 months. This removes you from mechanism number 1's control entirely. Part number 2. Convert currency to asymmetric assets immediately. Don't save dollars. The moment you receive them, convert 10 to 20% into assets the system cannot manipulate. Bitcoin with its 21 million coin hard cap. Physical gold and silver that cannot be printed. Income-producing land that you own outright, generating food or rental income without bank involvement. These assets aren't someone else's liability. They exist independent of the debt creation mechanism. Part number 3, generate income. Outside traditional employment. Skills-based income structured as business revenue gets taxed differently than wage labor. The same $80,000 earned through W-2 employment versus independent contracting or digital products saves you $8,000 to $12,000 annually in taxes. You're using the exact same rules the wealthy use, the asymmetry built into mechanism number 5. But now it works for you instead of against you. 3 parts working together. This isn't about getting rich. This is about stepping outside the system that was designed to trap you before the window closes completely. Here's what you need to understand. This window is closing, and it's closing faster than most people realize. Right now, 130 countries are developing central bank digital currencies, programmable money that governments control at the transaction level. China's digital yuan is already operational, tracking every purchase, every transfer, every financial decision its citizens make in real time. The Federal Reserve is running pilot programs. The European Central Bank has a target implementation date. This isn't speculation. This is active development. When CBDCs go live, physical cash disappears. Every transaction becomes visible, controllable, and reversible by central authority. They can program expiration dates into your money. Use it by this date or it vanishes. They can restrict what you're allowed to purchase. No asymmetric assets, no unapproved transfers, no escape routes. The system's blind spot gets eliminated by design. Simultaneously, regulatory walls are closing around the remaining exits. The SEC is targeting cryptocurrency exchanges, forcing registration requirements that destroy the decentralization these tools were built to provide. FinCEN's 2024 beneficial ownership reporting rules eliminated anonymous LLC structures. The escape routes are being identified and systematically shut down. And wealth taxes are moving from theory to policy. The Biden administration proposed a 25% minimum tax on unrealized gains over $100 million. That's taxing assets you haven't sold yet, wealth that exists only on paper. Once that mechanism is normalized at the top, history shows it expands downward. First the billionaires, then the millionaires, then anyone holding assets outside the system's preferred channels. Two paths forward. You do nothing, hope things work out, and in 10 years you're operating entirely within a CBDC system where asymmetric assets are restricted or banned, where wealth taxes are normalized, where the escape route has been sealed completely, or you act now while these mechanisms still exist. Start eliminating debt this month. Convert 10% of your holdings to asymmetric assets this quarter. Build an alternate income stream within 90 days. If you start today, you can be structurally outside the system within 3 to 5 years. Remember 1933, Executive Order 6102. The U.S. government ordered citizens to surrender their gold, paid them $20.67 per ounce, then immediately revalued gold to $35 per ounce the day after confiscation. 40% wealth transfer overnight. The people who acted before the window closed kept their holdings. The people who waited, thinking the government would never actually do it, lost everything. The window stayed open for 30 days. Most people didn't take it seriously until day 31. The Rothschilds designed a system nearly impossible to escape. But nearly impossible isn't impossible. The escape route exists right now. The question is whether you'll take it before the window closes.